Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is your boy Alex, and today is going to be another episode of Sex Game. Sex is like the animal kingdom, part 4. And this one is probably going to be the final video in the series. When you start a series, you try to go out strong as you possibly can go out. It's like a basketball game. You start the basketball game strong, you end the basketball game strong with a strong finish. There are some times where you do basketball where the game don't finish strong, and then, that's not good because then you lose the basketball game. This video's not basketball. It's not why you came to my channel to talk about some basketball. Actually could have worked out. Might work out later if I decide to. Say it's supposed to rain tomorrow, then we'll see. We got some funny weather, but we'll get to it. Now, this one's going to be talking about, it's going to be called Sex Game. Sex is like the animal kingdom 4. Beta turns into the sigma alpha. And like always, I'm going to do the math and the science. Give you the breakdown, the good and the bad, the advantages, the disadvantages of it. And, of course, this video is going to be for men and for women, because sometimes when I try to make the video just for men, women seem to get, they take it a little personal. If I said the video is for women, men get a little upset. So the video is for both. So that way, don't nobody think I'm sexist, playing favorites, or being biased, which some people still going to somehow twist my words and still say I'm being biased even when I say I'm not. So the video is for both. Now, we're going to talk about the history, and of course, always I bring in the animals from the animal kingdom to explain how does the beta turn into the sigma, turn into the alpha. See, there's actually a total of 4 stages. Some always say 3 because they always hear 3 on the internet. You always hear the alpha male, you always hear the sigma male, you always hear the beta. But no one really talks about what is actually the transformations. Now, the reason why I'm just going to start off with the beta and how the beta turns into 2 of them, because it's trial and error and experience. Now, with this one, it's going to be a compare and contrast. I can't guarantee if it's going to be a long video. It should be between 20 to 25 minutes, but it might end up being a 30 to 35 minute video, so bear with me. Now, let's just look at sports for example. Let's look at somebody like Michael Jordan, one of the greatest professional basketball players of all times, right? We all know that in the NBA, Michael Jordan is what they know as the ultimate alpha male, because the guy's won 6 NBA championships, 2 three-peats, undefeated in the NBA Finals, right? No basketball player has actually gone undefeated in the finals before or after. There have been some that have come close, but not to the magnitude of Michael Jordan. So that makes him alpha. But if we get into a time machine, and if we go back to when he played basketball in high school, at one point in history, he was a beta. And then if we go to college basketball, he was the sigma male. He had to learn from the alpha male. And he wanted to be alpha, but he wasn't alpha, he was sigma. And sometimes in the college basketball game, he would do things in the game that the coach didn't want him to do yet. And when he got into the NBA, he finally cut loose. He finally showed what he could really do on the biggest stage of them all. Because they wouldn't let him do it in high school. They wouldn't let him do it in college. He could have done it in college, but the coach didn't want him doing it because at that time, James Worthy was the superstar. And he had to learn from the superstar. When he got into the NBA, you see how he surpassed everyone. So what this experience tells me is that there's 2 groups of individuals. There's 2 groups of train of thought. One group of individuals have it like this in their mind and in life, and that is this. Some will say, once a beta, always a beta. Once a sigma, always a sigma. Once alpha, always alpha. That's just one train of thought, one group of individuals. The second train of thought, the second group of individuals will say you actually can go from beta to sigma to alpha. So you have people that are open-minded, And you got one, unfortunately, that's actually closed-minded. When you go onto YouTube, it's broken into like 8 different sectors on the internet. There's the manosphere, there's Red Pill, there's Midtown, there's Incel, there's the pickup dating coach community, and then there's everyone in between in the middle. And each one have their own interpretation and definition of what an alpha male is, a sigma male, and of course, a beta male. And most of the time, they always describe these definition terms from movies, television shows, and social media. But they don't ever talk about it in the way I'm breaking it down to where you can understand the math and science from the animal kingdom. Because even in the animal kingdom, there is the beta male. Or we just say beta. Now, let's start with that stage because that one seems to be the most blown out of proportion because everyone on the internet talks about this. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that is this. Some people strongly believe in their mind that when you're beta, you hear terms like you're low value. You don't make enough money at your job. You take a back seat to people at work. You open the door for people whether they tell you to open the door or not. And they even go as far as to say that that's why most women don't find you physically, sexually attractive. And then there's the argument on the internet, which goes back and forth until pigs can fly in outer space. Yes, you heard me, until pigs can fly in outer space. You might spit out your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, your Sprite, your 7-Up. Nobody drinks Sierra Mist. Coffee, tea, apple juice, orange juice, water, whatever it is you drink, you might spit it out. You heard what I said, until pigs can fly into outer space. And that is, nice guys don't finish last. We've heard that, right? Whether it was at school, work, at the gym, at the park playing basketball, whether it was a conversation at the restaurant or at the bar, at the nightclub, somehow, some way, whether you watched a video of mine or someone else's, or you just happen to ask someone in a conversation at a clothing store while buying some food, you heard someone tell you, nice guys finish last, right? Then you hear someone else say, nice guys don't finish last. And it seems like we can never get a 100% definitive answer to that, because one group tells you they do, right? Because you hear a man argue with a woman saying nice guys do finish last, and you'll hear some girls say nice guys don't finish last. So it's kind of hard to prove once and for all 100% who's right, who's wrong. It's like Greek mythology, right? It's like the story of Hercules, where Hercules fights all the magical, mythical monsters, right? Some might argue he was beta because he would always fight all those monsters and then expect to get rewarded, and then when he didn't get rewarded, he was confused. So some would call that a beta behavior. When he became Sigma, he would follow his own path and not the path that Zeus had laid for him. So at one point, Hercules became Sigma, right? And then when he finally decided to go do the 12 labors without no help and slowly but maturely just defeat everyone, he then earned the right to actually become Alpha. So ultimately in that movie, Hercules had those stages where he had to go through. To me, beta means you're a rookie. Like, if you look at professional sports, right? Professional basketball. When you come into basketball, everybody sees you as a rookie. You can say rookie, a novice, you're inexperienced. That's how you should look at being beta. See, everyone makes it sound like it's the end of the end of the world. You ain't gonna never get a girlfriend. You'll forever be beta. See, that's the first thing. The second thing is behavior, right? You know how they say that if your behavior is good, you get rewarded. Your behavior is bad, then you get punished, right? Well, here's why you should never listen to pickup artists and dating coaches. Because I'm going to make a future YouTube video that's going to shock and blow your socks off. And that is this. Some of those pickup artists, some of those dating coaches who tell you they're 100% red pill, if you take the Avengers time machine and you go back to 10, 15, 20 years back, you'll find out that some of those pickup artists and dating coaches were a beta males at one point, whether it was in high school, college, at work, at the gym. They were beta males, and then they transformed into sigma males, and then ultimately alpha males, because that's what every man wants to be, is alpha. Here's the thing: there are three to four stages of it, and you have to understand that when it comes to sex and dating, it's never easy. It's never 100% explained or simplified, because everyone tries to go 30, 40, 50% and then say that's it, and when there's more to it. Now, to me, it's about experiences. That's basically how it should come down to it. When you first try something, you fail, it doesn't exactly come out the way as you planned or hoped. Like, for example, playing basketball, right? How many times have you played basketball and you just weren't any good at basketball in high school and college? And then 5 or 10 years later, you go to the park, you play a group of kids, or in this case, teenagers, and you're not the best player in the world, but you're not bad, but you're pretty good. Yeah, because you had to practice at it. Well, sometimes you might have to require a new set of skills. You might have to learn how to speak multiple languages. Sometimes you might have to actually do things a little different. So you have to understand that being beta doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. See, the group of individuals who tell you once an alpha is always an alpha, once sigma is sigma, and once beta is beta, those are closed-minded individuals. Those individuals are very stupid, very delusional, watch too much television and too many Hollywood movies. They're closed-minded. They don't think any good can come from out of that. So they stay closed-minded. They have one point of view. They don't see that there's 5 or 10 different ways that an outcome good can come out of it. They just a straight narrow. One alternative and one alternative only. And the other group of individuals will tell you if you're beta, you can become sigma, and then if you're sigma, you can become alpha. So they're open. They have new possibilities. They see the positives in the negatives. So that's why there's always a clash of the titans on the internet, in the manosphere, in the red pill. Now, beta also means you're being targeted. What I mean by targeted, you're the weakest because you don't know anything. You just graduated high school or college. And who's the first one to get you because you don't know anything? Pickup artists, right? Con artists, right? Pickup artists and dating coaches go after guys that don't have no experience in anything. You ain't got no experience in sex and dating. You ain't got no experience in getting a car, a house, a job. So you're easy to manipulate. You're easy to trick. So they can give you misleading information because they know you don't know any better. And there ain't nobody to give you the experience to show you the difference between right and wrong, good or bad. So you just get the information and think it's real. This is why I always make fun of the pickup artists and the dating coaches and tell you I don't like them and I don't trust them. Because what they do is they wait for you to graduate from high school and college, and they try to recruit you to their 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour seminar, whether it's 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and can charge anywhere from $1,000 to like almost $15,000 cash to teach you how to game females. And then you come into the world thinking you can get the women, and then they give you scenarios from movies and television shows that don't actually work. And then you waste all that time and energy and money and effort thinking that's going to lead to dates, thinking that's going to lead to sex. And then when you find out it doesn't, you're confused because you don't know what it is that you've been told. And they know that you don't know. So if you went all of high school and college with bad, negative experiences, and they promise you can get women, and then you believe it, it's because they've tricked you into thinking it. This is why you should never listen to pickup artists or dating coaches. You get car salesmen trying to sell you a car when you don't have no job, you ain't got no money, they know you're at a disadvantage. So technically the word a beta male means you're at a disadvantage. You don't know what you're up against. You don't know who's telling the truth, who's lying. So you get spoon-fed a bunch of bullshit for a long time, and then when you come in the world, you take that spoon-fed bullshit and you actually believe it. They say in theory that if you tell a bunch of lies to enough people, they'll actually believe that the lies are actually the truth. And they'll believe it. And then you'll try to convince them and it won't work. Now let's take the idea of what happens to the beta. Now, the alpha male will try to help the beta male. The alpha will try to show him right from wrong, good and bad, try to give him the correct information, try to help him. And the beta will try to fight him a total of 10 to 11 times because he thinks that the way he thinks is real. And the alpha will try to explain to him, we live in the real world. We live in the real world. We don't live in reality. We don't live in virtual reality. We don't live in fantasy land. And they will fight back and forth. Prime example of this would be basketball, where the superstar is trying to tell one of the players on the bench, you know, I told you to go in the paint and wait for the ball to come and lay it in for a layup, and that guy decides he wants to be the superstar. So then there's miscommunication on the basketball court. Same thing in professional football. You know, Tom Brady will tell a football player who normally doesn't come off the bench and play, I'm going to throw the ball to you to go into the end zone to make you look good. And he decides he wants to do his plays in the football game. Miscommunication between the alpha male and the beta male. Now, in the animal kingdom, you have the alpha lion who tries to tell the beta lion some instructions. And the beta lion tries to do what he wants to do. Now, you might say, ain't that the same thing with the sigma male? Okay, here's the difference between the sigma male and the beta. The sigma male actually has a level of experience where it can actually separate from the pack, that if it went on its own, it won't do as badly as the beta would do if he went on his own. That's the difference between the sigma and the beta, is that the sigma actually has the experience that if he had to leave, he won't be that badly infected, where the beta will. After the alpha tries for a number of years to help the beta, the alpha leaves him alone. Because he tries and he tries and he tries and he doesn't get anywhere. Even in the job world, you might get some guys telling you, well, you can make some more money. Well, if you get 2 jobs, you can make 3 times the money. You can make 4 times the money. And sometimes that person will say, no, thank you. Or that person will say, well, I'm not interested. And there goes miscommunication. Well, here comes when the sigma male. Now, the sigma male might come 3 years later or 5 years later or even 10 years later and tries to help the beta. And same thing. He'll fight the sigma male a total of 10 to 11 times. And once the sigma male sees that he can't help the beta, he leaves him alone. So you had the alpha and the sigma males try to help the beta. Both tried. They found out that it took them 10 to 11 times, and that person wouldn't listen. Now, when there's no alpha males and no sigma males, and the beta starts to wonder how come no one's helping him with anything, not just with women, but with money, jobs, and life, that's when the beta will either do one or 2 things. He'll either try to become sigma, which that won't work because he would have to be under, he had to be in a pack with, with the others to be alpha. Or what will happen is an alpha will come from out of nowhere and will beat him into, this is in the animal kingdom, and actually fight the beta and make him submit. Where in the real world, in the job world, they would either just fire you or suspend you enough times until you realize you either do what they tell you to do or you ain't got no job. Usually that gets the message. Usually that gets it across. Sports, you just get cut from the basketball team or football team, or they just trade you if you're that big deal of a problem. That's what they do to you in sports. So that's what they do. And usually what happens to that beta lion is that he finally submits. Now, it ain't until 5 or 10 years later, once he has been around long enough, he transforms into the Sigma male because he's been there for 10 years and he now has at least 5 to 10 years worth of experience under his belt, that if he now wants to get away from the alpha male and go on his own path, he can. And when he does do that, go on his own and see what the world's like for himself, he then becomes alpha. And then if he ever returns, it goes into the clash of alpha versus alpha, like I told you in part 2. That's with animal behavior. Now let's go with the humans, the men, us. Now let's translate it into sex and dating, because a lot of y'all like get to the point. The point is this: by the time you start dating women, right, you hear guys say, what's wrong with this or what's wrong with that. Now this is how you can catch if the guy's beta. If the guy says something like, what's wrong with this or what's wrong with that, or why can't I do it this way, his behavior is beta. So when you hear the word beta, it should be translated to you lack of experience, a rookie. You know, he ain't battle tested. He ain't been put in the battlefield, so he doesn't know what he's up against. That's like, you don't take him on the battlefield and then he doesn't, like swimming, right? They always say never jump into the deep end of the water pool unless you know what you're doing. Never go into a house that's on fire unless you know what you're doing. Well, don't go into the lion's den unless you're ready at 100%. And the beta sees all these movies and television shows and copies that behavior. See, there goes that word again, behavior, and thinks he can do what Superman can do or what Batman can do, or he thinks he's Wolverine. And then he gets humiliated and embarrassed in public because the stuff he see in the movies and TV shows, it's not working. And he doesn't understand why it's not working. He'll buy a woman flowers, roses, box of chocolate, jewelry, and wonder why the girl won't give him phone calls, text messages, emails, why the woman says no to lunch and dinner, why the girl doesn't find him physically, sexually attractive, why the girl is ignoring him, avoiding him at work, at school, because of his behavior. And he does, and it's not that he's a bad person, it's not that he's a good a criminal, it's that he doesn't realize it's his behavior that's got the female going, I can't trust this guy, because this guy does stuff that's questionable. And then what this beta male don't understand is the type of women that he finds physically, sexually attractive don't find him physically, sexually attractive. And then he has to be told by the alpha males and the sigma males, these women don't like you. These women are scared or terrified of you. And he doesn't understand that until the one thing that didn't happen to him in high school and college finally happens. He has to be by himself for at least 3 to 5 years before he finally comes to the realization that all the stuff he's been doing, it's a lie. See, the alpha male realizes that when he gets out of high school and college, the stuff that he was told was bullshit. When the sigma male gets out of high school and college, the sigma male realizes that the stuff he was taught was bullshit. The only person that thinks that what they were taught was true is the beta. So word beta means your behavior. You know, your behavior doesn't make sense to people. Like, imagine if I went to the post office, right? And I asked somebody for a U.S. stamp. And they told me, first of all, the rule is you got to stand in line. You just can't cut 15 people and get a stamp and then think you see that's the behavior, right? Or if I jaywalk across the street and the police see me jaywalk across the street on a red light and the cop go, you could get hit by a car, so why on earth would you want to risk getting hit by a car? And then I explained to the cop, well, I wanted to get across the street to catch the bus, and the cop gonna say, you still could have done it, but you could have pushed the button on the crosswalk or wait for someone to signal you that it was okay. Miscommunication. The alpha male and the sigma male understand this information. The beta doesn't understand this information. The alpha male uses intelligence. The sigma male uses intelligence. The beta, he gets emotional. He gets in his feelings. You see this in sports. You see this at work, at school. And a lot of times they'll try to fight the alpha male. They'll try to fight a guy who's physically, sexually attractive, who goes to the nightclubs and the bars, gets all the girls' phone numbers, and try to fight the alpha because he's angry at the fact that the alpha always gets female attention. Why he don't get no attention, he's jealous and resentful of the alpha. So he'll try to fight the alpha and get his ass whooped. Then here comes the sigma male. He sees the sigma male getting phone numbers, taking women out to lunch and dinner, getting laid. So what does he do? Try to fight the sigma male, because sigma male's getting laid. And again, get his ass whooped. Because he's not understanding why these guys are getting the girls and why he can't. See, in the real world, we refer to sigma males as bad boys and players. And we refer to the alpha male as Chad, Tyrone, Brad, or whatever it is that they would nickname they give it in the real world as adults. That's human behavior. In the animal kingdom, your bad boys and players would be referred to in the animal kingdom as a sigma male. And the beta, or the guy who's weak, would be considered beta in the animal kingdom. They would say a baby giraffe. So basically they would look at the beta as a baby. He's a rookie. He ain't got no experience. He jumped in the deep end of the water pool and now he can't swim. That's how you should look at beta. Or if you don't like these examples, let's look at Star Wars. That's a prime example. If you look at the evolution in the character of Anakin Skywalker before his transformation into Darth Vader, there's 3 movies, right? So there's three stages, 3 transformations to the evolution of Anakin Skywalker turning into Darth Vader. You look at Star Wars Episode 1, he's being told by Mace Windu and Yoda they disapprove of what? His behavior. And why someone like him questions the Force. You watch the second one, Attack of the Clones. He doesn't like the fact that Obi-Wan is the one who gets all the attention for being a Jedi, but he's the one with all the skills. And you can see that behavior of his. Everyone else is an authority figure, and he's looked upon as a kid. He don't like it. When you get to Revenge of the Sith, you see he's got skills. You see he's got experience. It's been 10 years, so now he's sigma male. Until he gets seduced by the dark side, and it's the Emperor who gave him the one thing that he couldn't become. A Master Jedi, right? Instead of a Master Jedi, he's a Sith. That would be his transformation into an alpha male. Or if you want to go with Return of the Jedi, where he returns back to the light and he becomes an alpha male, fine. So even in movies, this behavior gets displayed. That's just with movies. That's just with Star Wars. Now, if you want romantic comedy movies, you need something that kind of broadens the scope, something that's more recent, something that clicks. Like, you can look at American Pie. I know it's like 14 years old, but if you look at that first film of American Pie, that whole movie tells you that the main character in high school has beta behavior because he never gets to date none of the good-looking chicks in high school. And when he meets this one girl from another country, if you ain't never seen the first American Pie movie, even though it's 14 years ago, spoiler alert, she has to actually teach him how to do sexual intercourse, which he makes an ass out of himself. And it's not until the second American Pie movie that he actually learns from that experience, that it teaches him that he has to learn how to correct the flaws of his behavior before he understands why he keeps getting what he keeps getting. And it ain't until the third movie that he finally figures out what's been holding him back the whole entire time. So it takes 3 movies for him to figure out what he's doing wrong and how to correct it. Of course, that movie ends with him getting married. And then 10 years later, you see they make a 4th movie where the whole cast comes back and you see he's alpha. Like, you see that he's so well crafted that nothing bothers him, nothing surprises him. And even in sports, I remember Barry Sanders said in football that the guys who never get to run a touchdown, they do it as if they won a championship. Because in reality, in the back of their mind, they know they're not going to a Super Bowl, and they know they're not going to make a touchdown. And Barry Sanders says, I make touchdowns all the time. And I don't celebrate because we ain't won the football game. Well, the alpha male doesn't celebrate until they win the game. The sigma male does not celebrate until he has achieved victory. The only one who jumps up and down when the game ain't been won are the beta males. And you see, the beta male does eventually transform into the sigma male. That's what pickup artists and dating coaches and men in the manosphere will never tell you, is that eventually beta does transform into sigma. Sigma male eventually transforms into the alpha. And every so often, he might turn into the ultimate alpha male. That's why I'm using Michael Jordan as a prime example. Now, if you look at Kobe Bryant, he is the ultimate alpha male. Because this guy surpassed everybody. This guy beat everybody. This guy rise to levels that players in today's NBA have not even reached yet. Like, some people might say LeBron James might be on the verge of reaching the same level as Kobe. He probably will. He probably won't. But I'm just explaining to you what the word beta means. It's been blown out of proportion. And they don't tell you this on the internet. So when they say I'm red pill, or if I'm a dating coach, they don't talk about that in the seminar. See, they tell you beta behavior, right? And then they tell you alpha behavior. But then you notice they skip sigma because they don't want to tell you that in order to become alpha, you would have to be sigma. And in order for you to become alpha or sigma, you would have had to be beta in the beginning. They skip those stages and tell you the best one, alpha. And then the pickup artists and dating coaches wonder why these guys become midtown. And if you think of midtown, that is actually a representation of being sigma male. I'm going my own way. Who do you know in the animal kingdom that goes their own way? The sigma male. Well, yeah, that means you transformed. And you see, the men who become midtowns, whether they know it or not, you've become sigma male. And then ultimately you will become alpha male. Now, some people might say, I'm telling the truth for the most part. And then you got the guys that will say bullshit because they love to do that. You get YouTubers that take other people's videos and then they do what they call a retread, which means they'll let you speak in the video and they'll break it up into 5 parts. And then they'll intentionally on purpose try to guess or interpret of what I'm saying or what I'm not saying or what I should be saying in the video to try to justify why they're right and why I'm wrong. You do have YouTubers who get a hold of people's videos and do that. That's a form of beta behavior. Because if someone speaks the truth, there's no need for you to try to challenge the truth. People who try to challenge the truth, something that's 100% logical, have beta male tendencies. You try to fight a guy because he tries to speak his mind, whether it's at work, at school, at the gym. That's beta male behavior. Because if someone's speaking their mind and they're telling you something's facts and you don't like what's facts, then there's something wrong.